This interview is brought to you by First Majestic Silver Corp, one of the world's purest and fastest growing silver mining companies.
Welcome to Cambridge House Live. I'm Vanessa Collette at the Toronto Resource Investment Conference. I'm joined by Keith Neumeyer, who is the President and CEO of First Majestic Silver. Welcome, Keith. Great to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Keith, what would you tell a new investor who is learning about the company for the first time?
Well, First Majestic's just entered its 10th year of business. I put the company together back in 2002, and we went on a very aggressive campaign of acquiring assets in Mexico. We were fortunate to acquire a very interesting portfolio of assets which we turned into producing mines. So we currently have 5 producing mines, all in Mexico. We employ approximately 3,500 people. We're listed on the New York Stock Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange. This year we're going to exceed 10 million ounces of production. We're actually going to get close to 11 million ounces of production. So a huge milestone for us in our 10th year of business.
Well, that's very exciting. And you employ 3,500 people down in Mexico. Are these locally engaged?
Well, throughout the communities that we're active in, each mine, depending on the size of the mine, but they employ between 500 and 700 people each. And then, of course, we have an office in Durango, where it's our head office in Mexico, where most of the all the operations are run. And then we have our head office in Vancouver, Canada.
You made some acquisitions in the last year, La Guitarra, I believe. How has it been integrating those new acquisitions into the company?
Well, our forte has really been buying assets that are out of favor, assets that have been either not producing for some reason, they were brought out of production due to low metal prices or poor operators, or mines that have been operating but just not that efficiently. So we've come in several times now and purchased assets and then cleaned them up. And that's a perfect example. Silvermex, which is the company that owned that mine, they had costs of $126 a ton. Their cost per ounce were $26 an ounce silver. And we knew we could improve on that. So we went in, made some changes, expanded the operation. It was running at 200 tons a day when we bought it. It's now running at over 500 tons a day. The cost per ounce is now $13 an ounce, and it's looking like a really exciting asset for us. Exploration-wise, the upside is tremendous. We have cut back our exploration programs company-wide as a result of the fall in the metal prices recently. But we bought that asset because we knew we could expand it, turn it into a cleaner operation, and also expand the resource base over time, with drilling and development of additional resources.
So you mentioned you've been doing some cost cutting. Are you also going shopping? I mean, right now with the downturn we had, you must see a lot of incredible deals coming your way.
Well, we know the market very well, and we've been in Mexico now, as I said, for 10 years. So we know Mexico probably better than most. So it's very rare that an asset comes to our table that we haven't seen yet. But most interestingly to us right now is the juniors. These companies are completely underwater, as many of your listeners will know. Some had market caps of $100 million, let's say, for example, and today they're $5 million. And they've got no money in the bank, and they've got a portfolio of Mexican properties that are of interest to us, and we're looking. And we've actually done a couple of transactions already this year where we purchased just land from juniors and added it to our portfolio, and it's great for them because it's the way they're financing, and it's great for us because we're able to add to add to the property's size that we currently are running.
Now, Keith, over the years, you've had some fascinating comments to make on silver. Can we talk a little bit about what's happened in the last few months, and silver being one of the biggest gainers in August?
Right. Well, it fell much more hard than gold did as well, so it was a balance. But the market activity really doesn't make a lot of sense, and it is frustrating from a senior executive's point of view, who's trying to run a business. When you're doing budgeting, and all of a sudden silver is $5 below your budget, and you obviously start having to cut costs and so on, and it makes the whole industry much more difficult to manage. But I'm convinced, on a pure supply-demand fundamental basis, silver, I think, is the best metal to be buying. Even despite the volatility, if you can handle the volatility, I think you should take advantage of these dips. For example, I think we're the only mining company that actually carried over 700,000 ounces of inventory over the second quarter. While other mining companies were blasting their metal out into the weakness into the second or into June, we suspended all sales. And we carried over 700,000 ounces of silver, and I sold those ounces at $4 higher. When the rally occurred in July and August.
That's a very strategic move on your part.
And making the company several $1 million as a result. But you can do that with a metal like silver because it is extremely volatile. I'm not suggesting people trade the metal because it's very difficult to do that. But it gives us some flexibility when as a producer to do things like that.
There's been a lot of talk about cost overruns. How well positioned is First Majestic, in the next year or so to, sort of say, weather the storm, with this roller coaster we've seen in gold and silver?
Mm-hmm. Well, we came into this year with a very aggressive capital expenditure program. We had $196 million planned to spend in Mexico in 2013. As a result of the metal price drop, we've had to cut that down. We cut $50 million off our capital expenditures. We also reduced our employees by close to 4,000 to now close to 3,500. So almost a 10% decrease in staffing. We cut down our exploration to almost zero. We've cut our development down substantially. So we're looking for places to cut costs. In 2014, we're going to look at that year as a cash accumulation year. We're going to come into 2014 with very low capex. We've got Del Toro, which is our biggest mine, to finish. So once we get that finished, which will be mid to late or second to third quarter of 2014, then that burn will stop. And then 2015, I'm thinking that will be a much better year for the metal, and we could then look at reinvesting in 2015 in Mexico.
How high do you see the silver price going?
Well, I'm on record saying that I'm expecting silver to be a triple-digit number. So that's north of $100 an ounce. Now, when's that going to be? It's a pretty bold statement, but you look at the supply-demand fundamentals. I've been quoted as saying, as we become more technology reliant as a human race, or reliant as a human race on technology, we become more reliant on silver. Silver is being consumed in all technologies, batteries, solar panels, robotics, computers, cell phones. There's two metals that are very strategic for us, and that's copper and silver. If you took copper and silver out of your life today, your life would change dramatically for the worse. And the above-ground supplies of silver are at historic lows, and the mining supply is only around 700 million ounces, and the consumption of silver is 1 billion ounces a year. So there's this deficit that is being filled by scrap and recycling and so on. And as these new technologies come on stream, I think the metals can perform very well.
Where do you see First Majestic in the next few years?
Well, we've just entered our 10th year. We're exceeding 11 million ounces this year, as I said earlier. We'll become the second largest silver producer in Mexico within the next 2 years. Wow. After Fresnillo. So that puts us in a very important and very prestigious camp, within the country. And it's taken a very dedicated group of people in Mexico. We've got an extremely good staff in Mexico. I think the top operating staff there is in the entire country. And as a result of their hard work and diligence, and we've been able to build a very exciting silver company. And there's a lot of growth coming. We could foresee, with our current asset base, to become a 20 million ounce producer, within the next 3 or 4 years from current levels.
Great. Well, we'll definitely be watching with interest. Thank you so much for joining us today, Keith.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.